Today we're talking about an amazing superfood. It's one of my favorite ingredients in smoothies, but it's also delicious to saute up, similar to spinach, or to even make your own tasty, salty treat like kale chips. And honestly, they're an amazing, healthy substitute for regular chips. Kale is such a great ingredient to add to your garden that you can grow, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to harvest kale so that you can make sure that it keeps on growing. And we're going to break it down into a few tips. But before we talk about actually how to harvest kale, let's talk a little bit about the nutritional benefits that kale does have. Now, as I mentioned earlier, kale is a superfood and it's packed with vitamins and minerals. There is vitamin A, which is great for eye and bone health, vitamin C, which aids in helping reduce your colds or decrease your capabilities of getting diseases. Vitamin K, good for blood clotting and bone development. And then there's also vitamin B and folate, which is great for brain development. And lastly, it is packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which is a healthy source of fat. Not only that, but it can help with lowering cholesterol, preventing cancer, and helping with weight loss. What we love about kale is it can be a pretty hardy plant, so you can actually grow it in the fall and have it actually grow into the colder seasons. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too in one of our tips. So let's go ahead into our garden and talk a little bit about how you can actually harvest it so that it's going to continue growing all season long and even into the colder months. Let's go. Here we are in the garden and we're going to start to talk about some of our harvesting tips. So we have 7 different tips, and the first one is when to actually harvest. So from the time that you plant your kale, it's going to take about 70 days to get ready to harvest. Although you can harvest your own microgreens, which I have some up here, at about day 25. If you are looking to grow yours out, you want to make sure that you're harvesting them when the leaves are around your palm size. So I'm going to pull that in here, and you can see this is a nice large leaf around the size of my palm. This means that it's ready to go. When you're harvesting at this time, you're going to have a much more juicy part of the kale. When you're doing microgreens, you're going to notice that it has a much different flavor. So you can also do that as well. But waiting for this size means that you're going to have the best harvest from your plants, and harvesting it is actually going to help it grow even more. Tip number 2 is actually where to clip your plant when you are harvesting. So I have these great harvesting clippers. I love them. I can link them down below, but you actually want to make sure that when you're harvesting, you're going to pretty much the stem of your plant. You're clipping it off right there, as close to the stem as you can, but making sure to not actually hit any of the roots or the actual stem. This way, it's going to make sure that the plant still is able to keep growing, but it's not pushing any of its nutrients to keep growing those leaves. Tip number 3 is going to be to make sure to cut your oldest and largest leaves first. So we're going to start on the outside, and from the inside is where actually all of the new growth starts again. So always start on your outside, and if you have any speckled or yellow kale leaves, then you want to make sure to trim any of those off as well, because the plant's going to be putting its nutrients towards fixing those leaves. If you're able to cut those off sooner rather than later, then it's going to help move the growth to the other parts of the plant and help it keep growing for longer. Tip number 4 is going to be avoid cutting the terminal bud. This is located at the top of your kale plants, and this is where all of the new growth comes from. So if you cut this, then you're really going to be halting that growth. So make sure to cut from the outside in and never cut the terminal growth if you are looking to keep your kale plant growing for a long, healthy amount of time. Tip number 5 is to harvest your plant weekly. So every 5 to 7 days, you want to be harvesting around a handful or fistful of leaves per plant. So we have a bunch of different plants. We have a nice amount of kale here, and you want to be doing this every week around so that it keeps on growing and it's not diverting its energy to keep growing these big leaves, which if they grow too big, they are going to start to get a bitter taste. So you want to make sure to cut them and harvest them at the right time and doing it often to promote additional growth. Now, if the plant does start to die, you are going to want to clip off any of those aspects and throw them out, throw them to the birds, your chickens, or even rabbits really love them. I love to take the stems of my kale, like you can see here, and I'll just cut them off. And rabbits love these little guys. Don't feed them too much, especially if you have a nursing mom, but a really great little treat for them, and trust me, they're gonna love you for it. Currently, we're in the summer, it's June, and these plants do not have to worry about any frost or colds, but kale is a really great cold weather crop as well, and you can be planting this deep into the fall. Now, one tip here is to wait to harvest till after the first frost. And what this is going to do is actually make the sugars go into the leaves, and it's going to be a lot sweeter of a crop. So if you can wait until then, that's going to make it really great. If you are looking to have kale as your fall or winter crop, you will also want to make sure to shield it from all of that snow and wintry weather. You can do this by having it inside of a greenhouse or creating your own greenhouse effect with any plastics or hoops around your kale. And this is going to make it really tasty. Kales actually love the cool soil and are going to thrive in this temperature. So don't be afraid to grow your kale out deep into the fall because you're going to love the benefits that you're going to get. Now we're going to head inside and talk about our last tip. So come on in. Our last tip here, tip number 7, isn't so much about harvesting, but it's actually about making sure that your harvest lasts. Now, kale, once actually harvested, can last up to 2 weeks in the refrigerator. And what you want to do is once you get your kale, you're going to take it, rinse it in some cold water, and then you're going to want to cut off any of the stems at this point. Then you can go ahead, store in the refrigerator, but you will want to make sure that everything is pat dried. You can even let it air dry for around 10 minutes, then putting it into an airtight container and sticking it in your fridge and enjoying the benefits of kale for another 2 weeks. Well, that's a wrap. I hope that you enjoyed this. And if you want to check out some more growing videos, I'll add them right along here, and we'll see you guys again next time. Bye.